This is Gemara and Sotah Daf Dalid. All the learning for today has been generously sponsored as an incredible schos aliyah neshama for Miriam Bas Eliezer Akayin b'siyata d'shmaya. The learning of the entire Chabura on such days that one could get wrapped up in Pesach preparations, but instead spend time learning Talmud Torah Kenegei Kulam should bring Miriam Bas Eliezer Akayin to an higher place in Gan Eden Shalmaila on the day of her Yartzeit Yulal Nisan, closer to the Kisei HaKavod. We pick it up, we're on Gimel Am and Beis, approximately 15 lines from the bottom. The first word on the line is Etzlah. And we go back to the discussion in our Mishnah, which is Eidim. How many Eidim are necessary for Tumah to show that this woman was indeed acted unfaithfully? So Tanan Hasam, the first word on the line is Etzlah. Tanan Hasam, we learned Tanan Mishnah Shaya Bedin. In reality, if not for the pasuk, I would have thought the following. Meaning this is a kal v'chaimer, a svara that I would have thought, if not for the fact that the Torah taught us that one aid is believed. If the original eidos, the eidos about the seclusion, about the fact that they went into yichud illegally, you need two eidim. Eidos achrayna, the latter eidos, the latter eidos sha'asarta isser olam, that's creating this isser forever between husband and wife. I would have thought as well, you need two eidim. Talmud Laimar, so therefore comes on the Torah and teach us ve'ein ein ba, that there were no eidim there. Kol sheyesh ba. So therefore, for there we learn out that any amount of eidim is going to suffice. What do we mean by any amount of eidim? Even one aid. So says the Gemara, 1 second. Why don't we say the opposite? Le'eidos harishayna. Kal v'chaimer le'eidos harishayna me'ata. But now we can make a kal v'chaimer the opposite. Once the Torah teaches me that one aid is enough for Tumah, why don't we now go backwards and say that one aid should be enough as well for stira? It suffices with one aid. Eidos harishayna she'eina isarta. Israelam, the original eidos that does not create the sins forever, ein aidin. Shetiskayim beidecha, one aid shall work. So for this, Talmud Laimar says the Torah no ki matzba ervas davar, the word davar. Ulalanu aimer. In reality, this drasha is going to give us a little bit more of a depth to that which we learned in Daf Beis. And then it says, I'll be shnayim eidim, I'll be shleisha eidim yakum davar. So ma davar amar la'alan. The pasuk, I'll be shnayim eidim, you need two eidim, I'll be shnayim eidim avkan. I'll be shnayim eidim. Therefore says the Gemara, for the stira is necessary to eidim as well. Even though it's true, you would have had a kal v'chaimer teaching me that one aid is enough. Says the Gemara, no. Davar learns that for the stira, for the seclusion, you need two eidim. Asks the Gemara, Hai ki matzah ervas davar. Hai ki matzah ervas davar nafka. Really? You need the pasuk, the davar to teach us this? Mi ba nafka. We said that we could learn this out from ba. That the aid ain't ba. That's when one aid is enough. Ba in this. So why do you need the drasha? Why do you need the hekesh, the gzir shava of davar mi mamain? Answers the Gemara, mi bayile. Bikini of stira mi bayile. Answers the Gemara, achinami kamar. Really, it's all the same drasha. Talmud loymar ba. The Torah says ve'ein ba. And for there we darshin bavaloi, bekinoi bavaloi bestira, ve'tama be'alma b'loi kinoi b'loi stira. Regular tama, regular zenos, without a warning, without a seclusion. Deloi me'emen eirachon minalan. How do we know that generally, in a non-Sotah case, in a case without a warning, without a seclusion, how do we know that an eirachon is not believed? That's where we need Namarkan ki matzah ba ervas davar. 3 lines at the bottom. Namar halan al bishnaim and al bishnaim edim yakum davar. Ma davar amar halan edim shnayim avkan edim shnayim. So the Shnayim, the Davar is not needed for a case of Sotah, but rather is needed for a regular case of Toma. Continues the Gemara, 2 lines from the bottom. Tanu Rabban. Now let's delve a bit deeper. This is almost like a gufa, going back in the brisa that we just quoted and learning a little bit more depth exactly what was going on. Tanu Rabbanan, 2 lines from the bottom, Gimel Amid Beis. Edus Rishayna, Vezu Edus. What is the mean by Edus Rishayna? We explained it, but now the Gemara quotes a brisa explaining it. Zu Edus Stira. That's the Edus that they were secluded. Edus Achroina. What does that mean? Zu Eidos Tama. That is the Eidos of Tama. And now we turn over to today's Daf, Daled Amud Aleph, Baruch Hashem. We're going to basically catch up back on the right Daf. Now we're going to learn a lot of the Dina that we referenced back in Daf Beis, back in Daf Gimel. Says the Gemara, Vekama Shir Tama. How long? Vekama Shir Stira. How long is the amount of time, the requisite amount of time that we say? If they were together for this amount of time, then we could assume that, unfortunately, there was an act of zinos. Says the Gemara of a kamashir stira, kedei toma, the amount of time for toma. Ukedei bia, the amount of time to sleep together, have relations. Kedei ha'ara, the amount of time for the beginning of relations. Kedei hakafas dekel, the amount of time to surround a palm tree. Divrei Rabbi Yishmael. So Yishmael comes along and he gives a whole list of ways of figuring out what is the amount of time for seclusion, which parenthetically, these are also the sources for the regular Isser of Yichud, how long it's going to be. But says the Gemara, Shita number 1, Rabbi Yishmael, and we're about to have another 7 Shitas, I believe. Says the Gemara, Shita's Rabbi Yishmael is what? Shita's Rabbi Yishmael is the amount of time for Tuma, Stira, which is Tuma, which is Bia, which is Ha'ara, which is Akafas Gekel. Of course, the Gemara is going to explain what is with the whole list. Rav Eliezer Omer says the Gemara of Eliezer Omer. Now, the truth is, I misspoke a little bit. I said we're going to have a whole list. That is the opinion. Now we're trying to figure out what is Kedei Ha'ara. What is the amount of time of the beginning of relations, which is this whole list? Again, I'm sorry, I said it a little bit off. Let me correct myself. We said how much is Shir Stira? Shir Stira equals Shir Tuma, Shir Bia, Shir Ha'ara, Shir Kafas Dekel. Period. Rabbi Yishmael. Now the Gemara is going to list a lengthy list to figure out how long is that. How long is that? Kedei Ha'ara, Kedei Bia, Kedei Toma, Kedei Stira. So Eliezer Amar number 1, Kedei Mizikas HaKois, the amount of time to mix a kois back with Chazal, to mix wine, they would mix wine and water diluted, that amount of time. Rabbi Yeshua Amar, opinion number 2, Kedei L'shtois, the amount of time to drink the cup. Pashtus, it means a Ravias, as Rashi 4 lines into the Amud points out. Ben Azai Amar says, Ben Azai, Kedei L'sleis Beitza, amount of time to roast an egg. Rabbi Akiva Omer Kedei L'gamai, to swallow an egg. Rabbi Yudin Beseira Omer Kedei L'gamai Shlolish Beim, to swallow 3 eggs. Zu achar zu, one after another. Rav Lazban Yirmiyah Omer Kedei L'gshar Garde Nima, the amount of time to tie a string. Chana ben Pinchas Omer Kedei Toshed Yad L'tech Pia Lital Kisam, the amount of time to stick your hand into mouth and pull out with a toothpick to pop something out of your teeth. As Rashi points out, Mi bein Shinel, Plimai Omer, that's someone's name, to put your hand in a basket and take out a loaf of bread. And Avishin Raya Ladavar Zeich Ladavar says, Plimai, I don't have a Raya that this is the amount of time for Toma, but I have a Zeicher, a mention of it. As the Pasuk says, Kab Isha Zaina ad Kikar Lechem. So we see the equation of Isha Zaina with Kikar Lechem. So a whole laundry list of how long it is the Shir Toma. Says the Gemara of Chalhani Lamali. What are all these times for? Srichi. So we need all of them. Now what was the question? The question was on that original brisa, on this top line. Shir Stira, Shir Toma, Shir Bia, Shir Ha'ara, Shir Kafas Get Ekel. 5 ways of explaining. Says the Gemara, why did you have to give me 5 different ways of explaining? Srichi. Titani Kedei Toma, Hava Amina Kedei Toma Ve'artzusa. I would think it meant the amount of time to be mitame the amount of time for zenos and artzusa, including the time to seduce the person. Kamash Mla, no, Kedei Bia, the amount of time of the actual intercourse. V'itani Kedei Bia, so let's just say the amount of time of intercourse. Hava Amina, that means Kedei Gemar Bia, the conclusion of Bia. Kamash Mla, Kedei Ara, the amount of time to start the Bia. So just say that, V'yashvini Kedei Ara, if just the amount of time to start the Bia, Hava Amina Kedei Ara V'artusa. Again, if it only said the amount of time for Ara, I wouldn't know that Ara means in a vacuum without the seduction. I would have thought it includes the seduction. Kamash Mla, Kedei Tama. Vekama Kedei Har, and how long is this? Kedei Akafas Adekel, the amount of time to surround a tree. So we needed the whole laundry list, each to exclude from the previous one. You don't need the phobia, you don't need the seduction, you need just the beginning, which is what? The amount of time to surround a tree. Ve min hi. Says the Gemara, we're going to have a whole long stira. We're 2 lines from the Y lines on Dal Amud Aleph, and we're now going to ask, we're going to quote a brisa, and this brisa, as we're going to see in a few moments, is going to have multiple stiras to the brisa we just quoted. Namely, a lot of the names that we just quoted are not going to line up with the names in this brisa, and we're going to have to figure out what to do with the clash. So Veremini, 2 lines from the Y lines, Dal Amud Aleph, says the pasuk Vinistera. Vekama, and how long is the stira? Shir, vekama shir stira. Loi shamanu, says the brisa. We don't know from the pasuk itself. Remember when the pasuk says v'hine tama, and they become tameh. Havi oimer, from here we learn kedei tama. How long is their shir stira? The shir of tama, which is kedei biyah, kedei arik, kedei chazar, zadekel divrei Rav Eliezer. So everyone right away sees kasha number 1. What does it say? Chazara sadekel, the returning of the dekel. What do we say on the top line of the Amud? We didn't say chazaras, we said akafa sadekel. Rabbi Yeshua, opinion number 2, that sounds good enough. But, as we're going to see in a moment, before Rabbi Yeshua was the opinion that said kedei l'shtaisai. Benazi amar kedei l'shtaisai. Now here Benazi says to drink it, whereas previously he said to roast the egg. Rav Kiva amar kedei litzais beitza, whereas before Rav Kiva said to swallow the egg. But Vidya says to swallow. Before he said to swallow 3 eggs. So we have multiple stiras between these 2 brises. So begins the Gemara by saying, Kesal Gedaitach. Number 1, we thought, Hainu Akaf Sadekel, Hainu Chazar Sadekel. So I thought, says the Gemara, that Adafak Sadekel and Chazar Sadekel is the same thing, and there's no difference between the 2 of them. But previously Rabbi Shmuel said that it's like kafas sadekel. He was the first opinion, and Rabbi Eliezer argued. And Rabbi Eliezer chazar sadekel. But here Rabbi Eliezer is one that says chazar sadekel. So it can't be the same thing, because before it was Rabbi Shmuel, and here it was Rabbi Eliezer, and before Rabbi Eliezer argued on Rabbi Shmuel. So clearly chazaras and the kafas sadekel can't be the same thing. Amar Abai, you're right. Akaf is beregel, chazar beruach. Akaf means to walk around, and chazara means the tree itself that's swaying in the wind for the amount of time to come back. So by Rav Ashi on this answer of Abai, chazar beruach keichid azal v'adar asi. What does it mean? The amount of time for this palm tree to sway to and fro and come back? Does it mean to go and sway back? Oidom keichid azal v'asi v'adar kai beduchtei. Or maybe it means to sway until it stops moving. That's what it means. Says the Gemara. Teiku, we have to wait for Eliyahu Hanavi for that one. Kasha number 2. Before Rav Eliezer said the amount of time to mix a drink in here, he says the amount of time for the dekel to come back. Answers the Gemara. I divide the chad shiruhu. They're both really the same shir. Kasha number 3. The amount of time to drink the cup. To pour a cup. Ema says the Gemara we clearly can't answer that to the same shir, because then it would be a stira from the previous case. So rather, says the Gemara, you know what it is? The amount of time to dilute and drink the cup. Ask the Gemara like we just spoke out. Imkain, like we just said, I know Rav Elazar, then it's going to be the same sheet as Rav Elazar. Kasha number 4. It's the amount of time to drink the cup or fry an egg. I divide roast an egg. I divide the chad shiru. To swallow it. Over here he says the amount of time to roast the egg. It means both. And it seems like he's Ben Azay. So when Rabbi did Ben Meseir, to swallow the egg. 3 eggs, one after another. Here he just says to swallow one egg. Answers the Gemara, 7 lines to the bottom of Rav Akiva Kamer. He's talking to Rav Akiva. The Kamer Mesharim Bitzliya. He said that he goes by the roasting of the egg. Ube Gemia, and with the swallowing. Emashir Gemia Lechod. K'dei Legama Shalosh Beitzim Zuach Hazu. Dainu Tzliya U Gemia. So the amount of time to swallow 3 eggs is the amount of time to roast and swallow an egg. So again, this is one of those things you really just have to line up the names, and then everything comes out very nice. And we continue. Rav Elazar ben Yirmiyah Omer K'dei Sheikshar Gardi Nima to tie a string by Rav Ashi Demarchik Yom Demekarif. What type of string? Is it when there's a long string or when it's a shorter string? Obviously, different amounts of times to tie it. Teiku again. Eliyahu Navi times 2. Chana ben Mechazar K'dei to put your hand in your mouth and to remove a splinter by Rav Ashi. And again, last time I think I said to use the kisim to take it out. No, it means the kisim, the splinter, the toothpick is stuck within your teeth and you got to pull that out. So by Rav Ashi, the mahadek, oidlo mahadek. It's talking about a splinter that's stuck in tight or not. Teku times 3, we got to wait for Eliyahu Hanavi. Stick your hand into a basket and take out the bread. By Rav Ashi, the mahadek, oidlo mahadek. Are we talking about bread that's stuck into the crevices of the basket or not? But chadata is in a new basket which has little pieces sticking out of the woven basket and therefore gets stuck in well and harder to get out. Oy ba'atika, or an older basket that's smoother. But chami, hot bread, which hot bread is easier to drop because it is mushy and easily slips out of your hand. Oy bikrira, or cold bread, not warm, hot bread. Moving over to Dalim Abayz. Number 4, b'dachiti or b'desairi, is it wheat bread or barley bread? The difference being that wheat is smoother, it's more easy, it's harder to pick up. B'rekicha or b'kusha, is it soft bread or is it hard dough? Again, soft bread again is slipperier. And again, time number 4 says the Gemara, Teiku, and all these intricate nitty-gritty shaylas, B'siyat Shemaya, Eliyahu Hanavi will come and be paishet all of them. We finish. We don't finish. We continue. Talmud Amud Beis, 2 lines down, that says the Gemara, we had 9 different opinions. What is the Shir Tama? So Amar Rav Yitzchak bar Rav Yosef Amar Rav Yechanan, Kol Echad ve'Echad, each of those 9 opinions, Ba'atzmai Shir. Each of those 9 opinions were Mishayer. They figured out how long they themselves took to perform an act of bia, and that's how long they assumed was the normal time, and that's how long a regular shir toma is. Says the Gemara, 1 second. Vayika ben Azai d'loi nasiv, and as Rashi quotes the Gemara in Yevamis, that Rabban Azai says, what should I do? Nafshi chashka b'atayra, and therefore I can't get married. So how is he one of the opinions if he never got married? Says the Gemara, 2 answers. Either he did get married, he just subsequently got divorced due to the fact he needed to learn Torah. His Rebbe told him how long the shir of Tashmish is. Third answer in Ben Azai, Hashem reveals his secrets to those who love him, a form of Ruach HaKodesh. And just to answer, if it was Ruach HaKodesh, shouldn't that beat all the other opinions? The answer is Ruach HaKodesh, how long he Ben Azai would have taken to perform a Ma'aseh Tashmish, but not necessarily does that contradict everyone else. So continues the Gemara, Darash Rav Avira. We're 10 lines down. First one line is Mishmei. We just spoke about a moment ago that we brought down a pasuk from Plimai, that the amount of time of seclusion was what? The amount of time to take bread out of a basket. And he quoted a pasuk to support that, as the pasuk put taking bread out of a basket next to Bad Kikar Lechem, next to Ish being Mizaneh. So says the Gemara, says Mishmei Ravasi, so when eats Lechem beloy Netilas Yadayim, Kilu Baal Isha Zaina. It's as if he was Baal Zaina Rachman al-Islan the words aren't working. For the proximity of the tilas of the bread to the isha zayna. Shenemar kibar isha zayna ad kikar lechem. Amar Rava, hi Barisha Zaina Kikar Lechem. Bad Kikar Lechem, Arisha Zaina Mi Bayale, it's backwards. If you're telling me that one who doesn't wash his hands, if he's Bayal Isha Zaina, it should have put the bread first and the Zaina second in the Pasik. So Amar Rava comes along and says, Klabal Isha Zaina, Lisaif, it doesn't mean it's as bad. It doesn't mean Tone doesn't wash his hands, it's as bad as being Mazana. No, the opposite. So, who's Baal Isha Zaina, you know what's going to happen? Something about bread. The Saif, Mavakish, Kikar Lechem, at the end he's going to be poor, and he's going to have to ask others for bread. Amar Rav Zrika, Amar Rav Elazar, on a similar vein, Kol Mazalzel min Atilas Yadayim, Nekar min Ha'olam. We just learned the importance of washing your hands. So comes along Rav Elazar teaches us if someone is Mizalzel in this, he's uprooted from the world. Amar Rav Chebar Rashi, Amar Rav, Mayim Arishainim, Sarach Sheyagbia Yadav Lamayla. When you wash before you eat bread, you got to pick up your hands so that any of the water runs down this way, and thereby won't be mitame your hands. Whereas, when you wash after you eat, let the water run off. Because why? Might drip down and thereby make your hands tamei esa yadayim. Mirz Hashem. Those learning Dirshu Mishtabura will be up there quite soon. Siman Kuf Samach Aleph. Continues the Gemara. Kuf Samach Beis. Amar Rav Avua. 10 lines from the white lines. First one line is esa yadayim. Says Rav Avua Kol Eichel Pasblo Nigav Yadayim. If you bread without drying your hands, Kilo Eichel Lechem Tami is if you ate impure bread. Shenemar v'Yomar Shein Kachel Yachlu B'nei Yisrael Es Lachman Tamei. My Veishes Ish Nefesh Yikara Tatzut. Says the Gemara. Why does the pasuk continue and say that a married woman, a precious nefesh Yikara, a precious nefesh, a precious soul, Tatzut gets trapped? From here we darshan Rav Chebar Abba Rav Yechon Kol Adam Sheish B'Gasas Ruach. If you're haughty, Libsaif Nechshal Beishes Ish. Rachmana Litzlan, at the end of the day, he's going to stumble with an Eishes Ish. How do we know this? Shenemar Beishes Ish. Nefesh Yikara Tatzah, that his soul is going to get ensnared and trapped. He who is the Baal Gaiva in the Zinos. Amar Rava, I Nefesh Yikara Nefesh Gavaya Mi Baile. Says Rava, 1 second. Why is it Nefesh Yikara? If it has to do with the Baal Gaiva, it should have said Nefesh Gavaya. Why does it say Nefesh Yikara? And furthermore, he Tatzah Mi Baile. What should have it said? It should have said that the nefesh, the person who is haughty, becomes ensnared, becomes trapped by the Isha's Ish. So Elam Rava, so Rava redefines in the last narrow line of Dalim and Beis, Kol Abal Isha's Ish, Afilu Lama Ta'ira. Even if he learns Ta'ira, Dichsiv Ba, Yikarihi Mipnimim, it's more precious than pearls, and that's the equation of the Nefesh Yikara. Mikayin Gadol Shenichlas of Naiv. One who learns Ta'ira is even greater than the Kayin Gadol that goes into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. But if he's Baal Eishes Ish, Tzadenu L'Dina Shal Gehenim, all the Ta'ira in the world cannot save you from being Mezaneh. He's going to unfortunately go to Gehenim. Anyone that is haughty, it's as if he worships idols. It's a ta'eva. Anyone with a haughty heart, don't bring a ta'eva, referring to avodah zarah, into my house as Hashem. So we see the haughty heart is a ta'eva, as is avodah zarah. That was the opinion of Rav Yochanan was Rebbe Rashbi. Rav Yochanan himself said that you know what it means to be haughty? Kilu kafar be'ikar. It's not like avodah zarah, but it's kafar be'ikar. You're denying Hashem himself. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Ram levavcha v'shachachtas Hashem l'kecha. If you're Ram levavcha, if you have a haughty heart, you're going to forget Hashem. And a third opinion about gaiva, about being haughty, Rav Cham bar Chanina amar kilu ba. Al kol harayis, Rachmana litzlan, as if he sleeps with all the forbidden harayis. K'sevacha toivas Hashem kol gav alev k'sasam ki es kol toivas hakel v'goymer. Ula amar, and a fourth opinion about gaiva, kilubana abamas, if you built a mizbeach illegally, shenemar chadul lachem and adam sheneshama ba'apa ki bama nechshav hu al tikri bameh ela bama. It's as if he built a bama. So continues the Gemara, darshaning the pasuk of the Gava Alev, of this one with the haughty of heart, who's a te'eva to Hashem, Ask the Gemara, 6 lines from the bottom of Dalim Beis. Ma yad yad lo yinakeh. What does the pasuk mean? From hand to hand, he will not be cleansed, he will not be spared. Amar Rav. Someone's body says, even if Hashem himself gave him a kinyan and acquisition of heaven and earth like Avraham Avinu, which says that Avraham Avinu had a kinyan on the whole world, still that's how bad being over in Zinos is. So continues the Gemara, 4 lines from the bottom. The yeshiva of Yeshila was bothered by that way that Rav darshan in the pasuk. Hayad liyad lo yinake, yad mi bayile. Says the yeshiva of Yeshila that the pasuk says yad liyad. Why does it say that? It should have said yadi. Should have said my hand. If it's referring to Avraham Avinu who had a hand, a kinyan over everything. Ella Amri Dvir of Shila, so the yeshiva of there said no, a different pshat, not like Rav. That afilu kibul Torah ke'Moshe Rabbeinu. T'chsev that the Torah says miyamino ish das alamai. That says from my right hand, a fiery and ish das of the halacha islamai. Still, you're medina shel ganim if he's ever an ish. So that is the second way of learning what yada yada lo yinakeh. But on this pshat, Rav Yochanan, the last line of Dalim Beis, Rav Yochanan is not happy. Hayad li yad yad mi ba'ilei. As the Torah came from Moshe Rabbeinu's hand to Klal Yisrael. Elam Rav Yochanan, rather says Rav Yochanan, as we turn over to Hey Amid Beis, Rav Yochanan darshan yad yad lo yinakeh says Rav Yochanan, afilu oises tzedakah b'seiser, even if someone gives tzedakah in seiser, in secrecy, in which it says, the Chsiv says the Torah, matan b'seiser yichab af, that someone who gives b'seiser is the best, then what's going to happen? Yichab af, it's going to overturn anger. Still, lo yinakeh medina shel Gehenim, he will not be saved from Gehenim if he's over on Arayis. We're going to stop over here and we'll continue to next year, Daf Hey, on the unfortunate issue of Gaiva.